What's up everybody, and welcome to the channel. In today's video, we are filming the 2025 Hyundai Elantra N alongside my FL5 Honda Civic Type-R. So with these cars, this Elantra N is $36,000. The brand new Honda Civic Type-R is around $47,000. So you're talking about a $10,000 price difference between these two cars, and it's kind of similar performance overall. Let's get right into these, how they compare, how they contrast, see which one is the better value. Starting off with the performance information, the 2025 Hyundai Elantra N is going to feature a 2-liter inline 4-cylinder turbocharged motor. This makes 276 horsepower with 289 pound-feet of torque. It is front-wheel drive with a limited slip differential, and you can get a 6-speed manual or an 8-speed dual clutch. With the manual, 0 to 60 is 5.2 seconds. It does have a curb weight around 3,300 pounds. And then over on the Honda Civic Type-R, this will also have a 2-liter inline 4-cylinder turbocharged motor with 315 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. This is also front-wheel drive with a limited slip differential, only available in a manual transmission, 6-speed. 0 to 60 is 4.9 seconds, and then curb weight on this car is going to be around 3,200 pounds. This Civic Type-R is also going to get a 2-piece design for the front rotors, around 14 inches, and you also have a 4-piston Brembo brake caliper. For the Elantra N, also has about a 14-inch rotor with a more standard design for the brake caliper. Moving on to the exterior styling for the Elantra N and the Civic Type-R. Honestly, I think both cars look really good. The Hyundai has a lot of sharp body lines throughout it. I love the performance blue color with all the red accents. And then the black, along with all these sharp angles, really make this car look super sharp. So definitely sweet looking car. For the Civic Type-R in championship white, this is a hatchback design, so a little bit different. Nice gloss black trim throughout it, bold front end. We do have a functional heat extraction vent in the hood for the Civic Type-R. I think they both honestly really can't complain. They look great. Coming around the front, the Civic has nice wide fenders, very clean and sleek, very understated car. Nice side profile. You also have a vent behind the front fender, a nice side skirt, satin black wheels, and a super sporty rear end with a massive rear wing. You're also going to get a nice design for the taillights, triple exhaust tips in the center with a nice diffuser. And then for the Elantra N, this has a nice pedestal spoiler, sharp lines throughout the taillights, and then a massive rear diffuser with a dual exhaust system. And then for the side profile, of course, a nice sedan. But either car, I think they look great for what they're trying to be. Moving on to the interior with the 2025 Elantra N. This has a pretty nice interior, really cool style overall. You're going to see the Alcantara inserts on the door, and then a very nice sporty design for these bucket seats. You got the Alcantara, the smooth leather, the nice striping design, single piece backs. For the dashboard, you're going to get a nice gauge cluster, very typical to other Hyundais. You can of course scroll through a couple different items. You can show even some of the performance information, so you can see that popping up. Now you can go into a really fun mode if you tap that icon. You got a massive center tack, more of those vitals on the far right side. We have the Sport, Normal, and Eco over here, and then the multimedia screen is basically what you're used to seeing on any Hyundai. You do have the N mode right here that you can go into. It's going to play a nice graphic. You can see a massive tack, your throttle, temperatures, brake pedal, all the different adjustments that you can configure in the car are quite nice to see. You can even zoom in. So pretty cool overall layout for the performance, physical climate controls, and then the 6-speed manual has a nice shifter to it. Nice design overall. Backup camera on this car, pretty good, HD graphics. Got 2 different views as well. So definitely a sweet interior, a little bit nicer materials than you might expect, but definitely comes together really well. Onto the FL5 Honda Civic Type-R. Once again, pretty nice layout for the interior. I like the mesh on the air vents, smooth design for the dashboard. On the door panels, there's some ambient lighting, a micro suede, and then this one has a much more aggressive design for these bucket seats. These are finished off in a red micro suede. They look really good, definitely super aggressive. I love how massive those bolsters are. Got the 6-speed manual, of course, with the aluminum shift knob, the nice red stitching. And then for the layout of the center, nice steering wheel with contrast stitching. Gauge cluster, pretty similar to what you've seen on many other Hondas, so very simple there. You can view a couple performance things on the side of the screen. And then depending on your drive mode, you have the normal, sport, and individual. And then you can also go into the R+, where it's full screen. So you have a really nice display now where you can also configure the screen, of course, see all sorts of things on the far right and see the vitals. For the multimedia screen, very similar to every other Honda, nice and simple, but we also have a cool screen that you can go into, just like on the Hyundai. So for this one, you're gonna get all sorts of vitals popping up, a nice G-force meter, different temperatures, things like that. So definitely a sweet way to go for both cars for the screens in them. For reverse, you're gonna have a nice backup camera along with a couple extra views. So it makes it super easy to see around. And then physical climate controls, we have storage just like in the Hyundai. Honestly, both interiors are really nice. You get just a little bit more higher end materials in the Hyundai. However, this is super nice too, with a bit more performance focused design. Moving on to the back seats with the Elantra N. So this one has a wheelbase at 107.1 inches. The Civic Type-R is 107.7 inches, so nearly the same wheelbase. At 5'11", sitting back here, I have about an inch or so of headroom. With the driver's seat set to my height, I have a lot of legroom. Feet are a little smushed underneath the actual seat, but overall, pretty decent back seat. The seats also have the same nice materials with the Alcantara and the synthetic leather material, as well as contrast stitching. So it's a nice overall interior back here. You have two USB-C ports down below. There's no air vents, there's no cup holders, armrests, or really any amenities whatsoever. And the seat is decent enough for a grown-up, and you could probably fit a car seat and kids back here pretty nicely. Onto the Civic Type-R for the back seats now once again. So this one being a liftback, I have a little bit more headroom. With the driver's seat at my height, just a bit less knee room, however, that still is plenty. My feet do have a lot more room under here as well. As far as amenities go, not really all too much back here either. There are no plugs. However, in the center, you are going to get two cup holders. There's no armrest or anything in the center, just like in the Hyundai. Now, unfortunately, the back seat is just basic fabric with red stitching and the red seat belts, so you don't get the same nice micro suedes. Even on the back of these seats, it has the nice material. So the back seat is definitely a little skimping in the Civic. However, there is a bit more room. It's a little bit more comfortable of a seat, a little bit more supportive. So kind of a toss-up between the two, but I think this seat is a little bit roomier, given the Type-R the win for back seats. For the trunk storage space, being a sedan, the Elantra N is going to have around 14.2 cubic feet of volume. You do get a pretty cool chassis brace back here. It's still a roomy trunk for being a small compact. Underneath the floor, you can lift this up, and we have a tire inflator kit, cubbies on the far right side as well as the left side. So not too bad for the typical sedan. The Type-R having that hatchback liftback design. This has over 24 cubic feet of cargo volume. This is a massive trunk, as you can clearly tell. This is super, super roomy. With that said, this one, you can easily get these seats out of the way and you're able to fit maybe bicycles or snowboards or really anything large, 2 or 3 or 4 even golf bags. This is an exceptionally large trunk space for the Civic Type-R. For the Elantra N, we can just pull these two tabs, and after pushing the seats down, you can see a little bit better cargo space. However, of course, that chassis brace is going to be there in a fixed position, really limiting the cargo space. So Elantra N definitely isn't going to have nearly the space that a Type-R will have. So let's get my bearings first with the Elantra N. Let's see what this car at under $36,000 has to offer. So I'm in the full-on custom drive modes and everything. Let's see. You have nice smooth power delivery. The manual feels really good to go through the gears. It's got a good notchy feeling without being too much like a race car, and it doesn't feel like an economy car either. So good balance there. The clutch pedal has good weight. The steering is nice and tight. And the suspension is really smooth. This feels like a refined sporty sedan. It's really a nice car to drive, honestly. It feels really good just cruising through these back roads. Power delivery is nice and smooth. Doesn't blow your socks off as far as the acceleration. Obviously, I'm not redlining it being a brand new car, but you can definitely tell it's got a good amount of power that'll put you back in your seat. Yeah, it definitely carries its weight really well. No complaints with power. Really smooth, really fun to just cruise around the twisty turns with. Steering gets significantly heavier in the N mode. And then for the turning circle, I do feel like it's a little large for being a small car. So just one thing to notice. Little pops on the exhaust. Yeah, it's a good balance. Again, it's not too fast of a car where you're going to get into trouble, but it's certainly not a slow car to where you're going to be bored with it or not be able to enjoy the power band. So for a performance car, being Hyundai's top of the line, basically performance car, I guess if you really want to think about it, this is their top level sports car. You know, it seems to have a really good blend. Of course, with an automatic, be a bit more dailyable, which is a great touch. I like sitting in the interior. I don't quite get this seat into the perfect position. I feel like, I don't know what it is. Like maybe I can't just lift the front up. I don't know. So I wouldn't mind a little bit better adjustments to the seat. I don't mind manual controls, just, I don't know, not perfect sitting in here just yet. The bolsters on these seats do a good job. It's an easy car to get in and out of. And while they're not like the most aggressive seats out there, they're gonna hold you in nicely. The Alcantara feels great. It's gonna give you a good grip to just be confidently sitting in here, going around turns. You're not gonna be moving around at all. So I think as a performance car goes on a budget, this seems to have a really good blend of everything. The rev matching works great. The different drive modes honestly change the character of this car too. It's a fun car, honestly. It has a lot going for it. Carries its weight really well. It's not too obnoxiously loud. If you are on a quiet road like this, really smooth road, it's a refined feeling car. It definitely is a good place to be. And then if I tone everything back down into eco mode, of course, everything just kind of relaxes a little bit. So it seems like if you want a daily driver along with something that can be a fun toy to hit some autocrosses with, the mountains, just a fun car to rip around with, this kind of can do it all. It's a really good blend, and I don't see really any sacrifices. It's not too backbreaking of a car to where you don't want to daily it. This would be absolutely fine. This is a great daily driver. You can do a lot with it, no complaints. Moving on to the Civic Type-R now. So just in the comfort mode, kind of feeling out normal car stuff to normal car stuff. This one still feels pretty comfortable. I think these seats are more padded. The bolsters are much larger, and honestly, I do get them into a better seating position. So I do feel more comfortable in these seats. You hear a little bit more maybe rattles around the interior, not much, just little things on this bumpy road over the Elantra N. So slightly not quite as refined of an interior feeling. However, use of materials, I don't really have a complaint. I feel like this is a nice interior. Yeah, we have micro suede rather than the Alcantara and the synthetic leather. So you got a little bit more premium feel in the Elantra N, but this feels really sporty and really nice in my opinion. With that said, going into the Plus R mode, the steering feels even heavier. The transmission is even notchier. And just giving it quarter throttle already, you're feeling that extra horsepower. We have 100 pounds less, and then we have, you know, a good 30, 40 horsepower increase as well as torque. So there is a pretty noticeable difference in power. And then steering is even quicker, I'm noticing, and of course that heavier steering weight as well. So I'm already getting a lot more like race car, performance car vibes, even more notchy shifter. Man, it seems to carry speed even more when you just give it babying throttle. I'm not trying to drive this harder than I could a new car. So even just kind of moderately pushing each car, you can feel this car is more on edge. This car is more of, you don't even remember there's a whole car behind you. It's just you and the drivetrain driving this like it's on rails. So there's a big performance difference, which is pretty cool to see. Yeah, the engine, even just giving it half throttle, as soon as boost hits, it starts to push. There is a little bit more turbo lag in this engine versus the Hyundai. But wow, as far as performance goes, this is something that I crave to take to the mountains. I want to do autocrosses with this. This really, really has a lot of performance to it, which is a pretty cool touch. That's definitely a pretty big difference. The brakes, yeah, they are definitely a bit harder as well. The clutch pedal, I'd say, is just as easy on this car. I did stall the other one in the parking lot, so that one took me a little bit to get used to how its engagement felt. This one has a little bit more weight, I'd say. The Hyundai's is a bit smoother. Just, I feel like you have to give it a lot of throttle, versus this one, you don't really have to give it much throttle. Turning circle feels a little bit tighter in the Type-R too, but for performance, I'm definitely, yeah, this car is so much more like on edge, like a caffeinated teenager. This kind of has that feeling. trying not to drive this harder than the brand new car, but just half throttling it, you can definitely tell this car is riled up a notch. This is definitely a car ready to go crazy around any course. You know, I wasn't sure going into this if they were going to be a big difference, because a lot of people in the comments said the Elantra N is almost the same car as this for a lot less money. I think in many ways it is a great way to go if you want to not spend nearly $50,000 on a Civic Type-R. But if you truly are interested in performance and you want something that is going to hang with very expensive cars, this car just has that feeling of like almost race car. This feels like a go-kart in the handling, to where it craves being driven hard and being pushed. It is definitely a car for the turns. So this has a lot going for it for the increase in price. They almost feel like they're both worth their price points. I'd say if you're looking to buy a Civic Type-R, you're buying this because you simply want performance first, and you do want a lot of practicality. The Elantra N is a step back. It's more of a normal car with really good performance at a really good price. So the moment you guys have been waiting for, ever since I bought the Civic Type-R, I have had so many comments of people saying you gotta drive an Elantra N side by side and see how these cars compare. So at a $10,000 price difference, honestly, I think both cars are very well worth their price point. And I think the best way to look at it is, if you're looking at a Honda Civic Si, I would spend a couple grand more and get the Elantra N. This is a significantly better car than the Civic Si all day long. As far as these two, the real benefit for the Elantra N over the Type-R is the fact that there's an automatic available and it's a dual clutch. You know, there's a lot of people who want the Civic Type-R, but quite frankly, don't want to deal with the manual, want something a bit better for the day-to-day. So it's nice that Hyundai offers an automatic in a car of this level. With that said, the Hyundai also has really nice interior materials, having Alcantara and leather all throughout it. So the Civic Type-R, however, performance is a huge difference. This car feels a lot more high-strung. It feels a lot more ready to race on a track, an autocross, a mountain. It is truly an enthusiast performance car at its finest. And if you're looking for a sub $50,000 performance car, the Type-R is probably one of the best options out there. So the Elantra N isn't quite on that same level. It's not as ready to rock, basically, as far as just the way it feels. However, for 10 grand less, you're getting a really nice car, great performance, a lot of fun factor, nice interior materials, and an overall very well-rounded car. I think the Type-R is a more niche buyer. This is for the buyer who simply wants performance as well as something practical. I have used this for home projects, people in the back. This is an exceptionally practical car, and I've used the practicality, which the Elantra N doesn't quite have given it's a sedan, versus the hatchback. Also, the performance. This is not a daily. This is a toy. This is a car I just rip on and use for even the highway cruising. So for me, it is comfortable on the highway. I like the tech it has. Has Apple CarPlay, which is the only thing I really care about as far as tech goes. But the performance factor, it drives like it's on rails. It is super mechanical. It is, you can tell it's basically a track car. It is really, really performance focused. And that was my #1 goal. I just wanted pure fun. Now the Elantra N is still a heck of a lot of fun, especially coming in at 10 grand less. However, it's just not quite on edge. It's not at the same level to where, you know, this is a little bit softer. It's not quite a car that feels like it should be on a racetrack first. And I think to me, that's where the Type-R shines, because I just like that aspect. With that said, values, the Type-Rs, they go for really good money. I bought mine used with 2,000 miles for $45,000. I could sell this for what I paid, even though I'm now over 4,000 miles on it. And the Elantra Ns, they seem to hold similar values. They don't quite hold the same percentages. Most people who buy Civic Type-Rs, if they don't go crazy on miles, can sell them for what they paid. With the Elantra N, they depreciate just a little bit more when you look at the percentage, but they're still holding values decently to where either car is a safe bet, whether you buy it brand new or used. So at the end of the day, I think the Elantra N is a really good way to go if you want a Type-R, but $10,000 less. It gives you a lot of fun factor, and you really can't go wrong. And if I was on the mountain roads, either car would be a heck of a lot of fun to be cruising in. So that is it, guys, for the Elantra N versus Civic Type-R. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, stay tuned for plenty more content. I'll see you all in the next video.